Welcome, everybody. This is Bart Sharp, and you are on Becoming Quantum Conscious. I'm kind of dealing with my computer right now, and my God, it's giving me all kinds of problems. And I'm back again. I can see my screen. So let me tell you, this is Bart Sharp at Becoming Quantum Conscious, and we're very quantum today. And Southern France, once again, week after week in Southwest France, it's just such a prison. I tell you, oh, I'm sweating it with this beautiful wine and great cheese and organic food and power spots and mountains and cold mountain streams all around. And then this coming Monday, it is the special day we've all been waiting for, and that is Mary Magdalene Feast Day, July 22nd. Will it be rocking in this area? Probably not. It's kind of quiet. The French and locals and stuff do their little private things in their prayers, but maybe that's what Mary Magdalene's more about, is the internal journey. Anyway, that's what I appreciate. I'll probably be down by water in a stream and doing something highly spiritually evolved. Interesting enough, July 22nd is the middle of the calendar, of the Egyptian calendar, mid-calendar, and this feast day has been Mary Magdalene feast day since God knows when, like 3rd century, 4th century, 5th century, something like that. Please don't try to bring a book up and try to prove me wrong, because you're probably right and I'm probably wrong, but it was way back when that people celebrated it that were good Catholics. They adored Mary Magdalene, and Mary Magdalene is adored here, patron saint of the Occitan region, not the Occitan region, the Provence region. That would be eastern southern France, close to Nice and all of that good stuff. So I just thought, what are we going to do about Mary Magdalene's feast day? Well, we have two younger viewpoints about Mary Magdalene. So the show is Mary Magdalene for Millennials. And by the way, I don't think I've given the call letters. You are on United Public Radio and UFO Paranormal Radio at 107.7 and 105.3 out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. Also on cable television, also known as Roku, Facebook, Twitter, UPRN website, and other internet platforms all around the world. And I'm going to bring in our guests. First, we have Lonneke Zintel. Hi, Lonneke.
Hello.
Hey, and we also have Natalia Dunne. Both
Hello.
Magdalenes, both with their stories, both tour guides, but also doing a wide variety of other things. Um, and if you're on my Facebook group, you probably see their beautiful pictures up with their beautiful groups up there, because they post on my group, Mary Magdalene France Tours. No, Mary Magdalene in Southern France Tours, something like that. I can't even remember my own site.
You
Oh,
got it.
this is too much fun. Okay, so first we have a comment here. If any comments come in and questions, we have Julie Evans. Hi, Julie. Glad you're here. So, Lonneke, Natalia, we'll just start with the really basic question. What got you into the spirituality, the practice, the embodiment of Mary Magdalene? Who's first?
I can go first. I don't mind.
All right.
Hello, everyone. Um, so for me, I think just spirituality in general. I have been on the spiritual path probably since I would say 17, 18. And then when I turned 19, I lost both of my parents in a car accident. And that really, really pushed me even deeper into the spiritual, to understand, why are we here? What are we doing on this earth? What happens to the souls once they transition? And I kind of started communicating with my parents once they passed away from the other side. And so I was always very connected to the spiritual. And then maybe about, I would say, 7, 8 years ago, I started feeling really strong call from the goddess, and I didn't know anything about Mary Magdalene. I was living in Canada, had no idea who she was, and I kept receiving those messages during meditation. Oh, you have to go to southern France and you have to follow the footsteps of Mary Magdalene. I was like, Mary, who is that? No idea. And all of a sudden, I started having like random priestesses pop up on my Facebook, pop up everywhere. And I started exploring what is this sacred feminine thing and who's Mary Magdalene. And I tried to figure out, okay, how am I going to move to southern France and how am I going to follow the footsteps of Mary Magdalene, whoever she was? And my human couldn't figure it out. It was like, I don't know how to make this happen. We can't just take my family, my husband, quit your job, let's go to southern France. I had a vision. And so I kind of put it on the side. I was like, okay, goddess, if you want me to move, help me figure this out because my human is not finding a rational solution for that. And then all of a sudden, my husband calls me from work, and he didn't know about that. I didn't tell him anything. I was still like a bit in the spiritual closet. And he tells me, Matt, there's a job opening in Toulouse. Should I apply? And I was like, oh my goodness, yes, apply. You have to apply. And within, I think, not even 3 months, he got the job. He sold everything, and we just took the kids and we moved to southern France. And that's where I really started discovering who Mary Magdalene was. I started discovering about her history, about her sites. I started doing the pilgrimages and really learning about the story and about the mythos and about everything that comes along with her.
Wonderful. It's such a great story of synchronicity and calling, listening, and then having the wisdom to say the time is now.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
But it felt like such a strong confirmation from the universe that this is the path you need to follow, that I couldn't ignore it. It was like, it was very scary to take the kids and just move to a country where I know nobody and leave everything I know behind. But to me, the calling was so strong. And I'm like, okay, if my human had to invent that, I wouldn't be able to invent this path. So I feel like it's just this magical, universal synchronicity of like, the way I see it is like the goddess leaves rose petals for you to follow, and it's our job to get up and then follow those rose petals. And that's where the led me so far.
Something happens that you just follow what's light and expansive a lot of times, and it moves you to greater things. And I'm really curious about Lonneke, excuse me. What was your experience with this? By the
So
way,
for
Lonneke's from the Netherlands.
yes,
Um, Natalia grew up in Canada and is now living in Toulouse.
Yeah. But I'm Russian originally, so if you hear a little bit the accent,
Everything.
yes, a mix.
so, so for me, it started in 2012 when I was starting to meditate, and this opened a whole new world for me. And before that, I was running a business. I was very much into my masculine, and then at some point, I felt a friend of me died, and it opened my heart to. She asked me before she died to make my dreams come true, and I promised her to do that. So this opened to me, yeah, like what are my dreams, and is this my dream? And then a lot of shifts happened. I went to the south of Asia to travel and to find out what is my true path. And then I realized that I was so much in my judgmental mind about being right, being wrong, doing good, doing bad. And suddenly I felt I had to lose that all and loosen up and to be connected again to what is going on in my body, what do I feel. And this was a big experience for me. And eventually I came back to the Netherlands, and I didn't feel the same anymore, and I couldn't really ground back into the Netherlands. And then at some point I felt called to go to Ibiza. And then, it's quite hard to find a house in Ibiza usually. But at some point, someone called me. She's a friend living in Ibiza. Hey, I'm looking for a house, but it's too big for me by myself. And I said, okay, I'm going to be your roommate. And that's it. In 1 week, I had a house in Ibiza, super beautiful, a big campo house in the middle of 10 square meters of forest. And yeah, it was like, okay. but I didn't have a plan. Ibiza really called me there, but I didn't know what to do there work-wise. And then I felt like, okay, I have to surrender. And I know there's something for me there. And this was in 2019. And for me, this was an opening to a whole other level of a journey where I fully connected to the divine feminine. And Tanit, she's the goddess of the island. And she really called me in, and I started to work with her. I started to experience how it is to embody the goddess and to let the goddess speak through you. And it was so new and so I couldn't understand it, but it was such a strong experience. And then 2 years ago, I felt the call to go to the south of France, the same feeling that I have to go there. And then it all happened again, this feeling of being on the spots and at the right place, the right time. And I was so guided. Everything was fully synchronized. And yeah, I love that feeling of synchronicity. So this is
Yeah.
how it happened for me.
Yeah, you both have such common stories, and it really brings up a question, as you were saying, Lonneke. What does it feel like when you feel like the goddess is moving through you or active in your life? Like you said earlier, I was doing a very masculine life. It was predictable. I was doing what society tells me. And then another voice shows up. I just wondered if y'all had anything to relate to that.
I feel for me it was really to make space in my body. My body was so stuck into routines and how it should be, and all of these stories actually, and to make space, to be empty and to start receiving instead of being in this giving energy. I felt like I had to empty myself and receive life through me, and that was what Ibiza gave me, and also the south of France gave me afterwards. And to really sit somewhere and to feel what wants to go through me, like an energy, as if your body is taking over. You still have control, but there's something that wants to be moved or that wants to be expressed, and your body is the vessel for that.
Wow,
Mm.
wonderful.
Yeah, I love this very much. I also very much resonate with this. And the way I see it is a lot of being in the feminine is about becoming very deeply intimate with our soul. And for that, we need to create spaciousness for our to be able to hear our soul, because our soul talks through our body. And I feel like so often we're programmed to be in this masculine and to be in our heads all the time. And the feminine is really about descending into the body, inhabiting the body, and creating the spaciousness for the quiet whispers of your soul to come through and to really become cultivate this intimacy of listening. And
Natalia, can you raise your voice a little bit?
yes, of course. Can you hear me better?
Better, better.
Yes. Okay. So what I was saying is, it's really about creating the spaciousness to become very intimate with your soul and to listen to your soul, because very often it's going to communicate through your body and through visions, or maybe some sounds or some feelings in our body, like very somatic. And if we're always in our head, if we're always like thinking forward and projecting ourselves forward and leaning forward, we're not leaning inward, we might completely miss all of those signs. And so I think it's like an art of developing this intimacy with our soul.
Indeed, I love that. And a really key word you said was somatic, and of course therapists do now a somatic approach, and mostly that's about dealing with emotions and how we hold emotions in our body. Which do you feel like that's another part of it? It's like to get higher into spirit, you have to deal with fun things like anger and shame and sadness and
100%. And I think, like, especially because I work mainly with women, and what I realize in my work is that so many women have a lot, like we only were taught that there's only certain emotions we're allowed to express. And so especially like rage, anger, like often gets like suppressed and repressed, and we carry this in our bodies somatically, like it gets stored inside. And so a lot of the feminine work is like about descending into the body and allowing ourselves to express those emotions and catalyze them and transmute them, and realize that like actually anger is it's a very powerful and very sacred. Rage is sacred. All of those emotions are very sacred. They're helping us uphold boundaries when our boundaries were maybe violated or not honored. They propel us to take action. It's more like, do we create the safety to see our ragey self, or like our, not pretty self? Like, is she still welcome? Is she allowed to come through?
Indeed, I love it. Hi, Carrie. Glad you're here. And it's so true. It is a sacred act to have these emotions because they're there to teach us something so important. And then the other side starts to show up even more. It's beautiful. So you were talking about that you work with women, and maybe that's a great question to ask is uh, how do y'all interact? I know you're both tour guides, but you also do separate work than tours, if I'm correct. And just, what's that spiritual path like? Or what's that therapeutic path like? That's a better question.
You mean as a facilitator or?
Either or. You just take it and run with it, girl.
Yeah, for me, it feels that the practice, what you preach, is so important to me because I feel that the embodiment of something that you're teaching is the most important. And also, that's how I started my podcast, The Many Faces of the Mary Magdalene, because I felt like sometimes for me it's difficult to express what I feel about her. And also, I still don't know. It's an ongoing journey, and I don't have the truth yet found, like everything, and I want to know more, and I want to connect to other people that also resonate with her and to expand this wisdom, because I know that when you share it together it's going to be bigger and you get more rich inside. So I feel that this is important to feel what is the truth, and not that it's something that you only read or only the knowledge from someone else, but that you can feel like, oh, this is true to me. I don't know why, but I feel it in all of my body that this is the right way, the right path, or this is touching me. And I always have it when I'm speaking, for instance, to you on my podcast. I feel like, oh yes, so much new knowledge. And I get so enthusiastic about new views that are supporting what I already know from the inside, but it's coming out by the mirror of someone else. And I hope to be that person for someone else as well.
Wow. Well put. You're really talking to my heart because I totally believe what you're saying. We find the truth inside of us, whether we're hearing it from a voice or even reading a book. There's some books that just rivet me, and then other books, they're nice intellectual things. And I remember before I crossed over to this intuitive side, I would think and I would think so hard to get these concepts, and it all had to be rational. And the one thing that was missing was trust, the trust of my gut. Um, Natalia, what do you have anything to add to that? I know this is a pretty hard one to
Um,
follow.
no, it's a very beautiful question. I think whenever you go into the spiritual space, trying to understand and categorize and have like this very square approach to it, very protocol like.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is coming to the spiritual from the masculine. And I think this is a beautiful building block when like I'm thinking of myself back when I was just starting on my spiritual journey, and I was
Mm-hmm.
so sad. I'm like, I need some rules because the spiritual can feel so vast and so big and so um, subjective, right? Like there is no concrete rules. And so I think having those guide points might be very good, like a masculine approach that gives you like maybe baby steps to dive into this. But I think ultimately, the spiritual is really such a subjective journey and such a personal journey and such an intimate journey with our own soul. And I think your soul will guide you exactly where you need to go. And it's also about unlearning some of the rules that we've been taught, unlearning some of the aspects of ourselves that we thought like we identified with and shedding them and discovering deeper truths about ourselves, not based on some kind of external rules to follow or some kind of external reference points, but really stepping into this inner authority and becoming our own inner leader of like, I learned to trust my soul. And whatever my soul shows me, whatever it communicates to me, I'm going to learn to trust it. And I know it can be so hard because I come from an academic background. And so everything was very science, science, science. And so for me to let go of that and be like, okay, now you need to go and like swim in this uncharted ocean of spirituality, I can see how this could be like very intimidating at first, and we need like those reference points. But I think ultimately, the more you step into authority of yourself and of your soul, the more you develop the language and the trust, the easier it becomes to like really let go and surrender and step into the feminine. Because that's what to me the feminine is about. It's about surrendering. It's about trusting. It's about experiencing. It's about feeling. It's the intuition.
Mm,
So.
wonderful. I think the one thing that we have in common, well, we have many things in common, but one of the things I want to bring out is that we're all three tour guides. And we focus on the spiritual journey of Mary Magdalene, the sacred sites of Southwest France. And as I learn your stories, it's very similar to mine. We have this desire to help that soul information or that connection with the soul self come out through these sacred sites. And um, just was wondering if you could share a story or what, how you do that, or what you feel is important and how to do that. Because we all have different techniques. I'm a guy, and as much as I work at divine feminine and having a feminine perspective, I still have this real masculine point of like, let's get it done, you know. And it's different than how a woman would lead a group, and so I just want to see how how y'all approach that.
Mm, well, for me, it's always a surprise what we're going to do that day. I feel like there's some sort of idea in my head, but then when I wake up in the morning, I feel like, okay, this is the place we have to go. And then when we are there, I I feel like what is going to happen, I don't know before what is going to happen. And when we are there, I feel like, okay, I need to listen to what wants to come up, and then I guide it. And it can be so different, it can be something connected to the womb or lineage healing, healing the feminine lineage for the women that are there, or it's like more like an empowerment to really step into your power. And usually that is connected to, for instance, the Isis chair, where I feel there's so much power that you can feel and that you can connect to. And
Well,
then there's also,
let's. Not everybody knows Southwest France, so we'll hold and explain what the ISIS chair is, if you allow me.
yeah,
It's a
sure.
stone chair that is set on a couple of ley lines. Even ley lines, I suspect, go back to the Giza Pyramid, also the Peak to Bugarasha Stargate Mountain. So it is powered up. It's been carved out to be a stone chair around, they date it back to 20 500 years ago. There's also another chair above it called the Osiris chair, and they work together, masculine and feminine. Um, and so this is a highly magical place right on the city limits of the little village called Renly Bon, which is close to Renly Chateau in the woods that we all know and love. Uh,
Mm.
so I tell us about what that is. I'm sorry to extend that so long.
That's good. Thank you so much. Yeah, so actually that's it. To feel like what does the space want to teach us and what can we learn from it, but also to remember something that is already inside of us. And sometimes this is like this soft feminine, and sometimes it's the wild one and the strong one, you know, and or this yeah, more the shamanic woman. So I feel that there's so much layers that you can uncover when you are there.
It has that magic about it with the right type of people magnifying it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can really resonate also with what Lonneke said. I feel sometimes, we as humans, we love to plan and we have our plans, and then the spirit has another plan for us. And I think if we allow ourselves to surrender into this, like that's how you can weave a lot of magic. And I would love to also add maybe that it's kind of like, to me, the way I approach this, it's the women who come to me, it's like a call of destiny that we our souls all agreed on previously to come and activate each other during this journey. And so the way I see it is that we are all together co-creating. So the way I see it is that I'm not like I lead the space, I hold the space, but I create spaciousness for everyone to also come and bring their magic and weave together and co-create together. And I think the most important thing is to have safety. And once you create this container of safety, of compassion, of non-judgment, I think a lot of women allow a new version of themselves to show up. Their oracle, their priestess, their very magical, soft, feminine, delicious side that maybe sometimes in like quote unquote the real world they don't allow themselves to step into. And I think a lot of it is just about creating the right space for them to embody this new version of them that is already there, that is already so ready to come forward, but it just needed the space for it. And then we weave all the magic together and we go and we explore the spaces. And I'm very open. It's like I have an idea for a ritual, for example, and then somebody's like, oh, but I'm also feeling this coming through. And then we bounce off ideas and we weave together. And I think this creates really powerful experiences, like even more powerful than me alone I could imagine. And I think that's the magic of women coming together. And I'm
Mm.
sure men as
Yes.
well.
Yeah, and men as well.
Mhm.
It's funny because I lead tours of all women sometime, and it's an interesting place to bring that out with that. But we all step into that place of allowance, support, openness, um, giving everybody space to have that, but at the same time, as a leader, guiding it. And you know what the energy has and the potential, so you start it, and then it starts to open, which is very different than I think of some of the older tour guides uh, that may have just told history and told stories and such. And everything that you two talk about is that consciousness is experiential. It's visceral. You feel it and you vibrate it. And so as a leader, do you feel like you're a conduit for this as well? Like you bring it in?
That is
Uh,
such a good question. Um, I feel to me a lot, well, most of the work that I do, the way I see it and the way I experience it is like I am allowing something to move through me. So it's bigger than just myself and it's bigger than just, the vision that I might hold as a human. I like a lot of the work that I do, I literally just channel it. And I'm like, okay, show me what needs to be created. Show me what wants to be birthed through me. And I allow this birthing process. And I believe that if there is an idea out there or something that wants to be birthed through you, it's like almost our sacred duty to allow ourselves to birth it and to be like the sacred channel for it to pass through. And so, yes, I do think, I think it's bigger than just me and my little human.
Yeah,
But
I think you got the conduit idea down. What
yeah,
do you think, Lonneke?
Yeah, it's funny because what Natalia shared, I totally agree with, and it also reminded me of my last tour, where my human self would go to the nice girl, but my teacher self is like, you cannot do that. You are a channel for truth, and this is not something you can hide from. So it's also asking me to really step up and to do what is necessary, even though it's difficult sometimes, because it's like, such a scary thing to do. But yeah, I feel that that's why, to me, this is for me a sign like, okay, I am actually in another role and there's something bigger than my identity or my shy self or my nice girl that is showing up, but it's bigger than that.
That's a wonderful answer. So we're midpoint to the show, so I have to tell everybody here, you are with Lonneke Zintel and Natalia Dunne, excuse me. And they are both facilitators, tour guides, uh, facilitators of women's spirituality, traveling and guiding tours not only to France, but I know, um, Natalia, you do different places as well. And God, I'm trying to find your website. You can find Lonneke at Lonneke, that's Lonneke at Luna, LUNALON.com. And Natalia, how am I going to explain your website? I'm getting it here. Just a
yeah, I
second.
saw I sent it in the chat.
I'm trying to get this out because you were telling me this earlier and it was really long. I'm trying to get it up to my. Oh, here we go. Uh, at academy.nataliadolger.com. Uh, and so that'd be NATALIADOULGER. And that would be Slows / Rose Priestess Retreat. So you're having a retreat coming up, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. In October. It's not right away, it's after the summer. The summer I went to spend the time with my kids and the family and really enjoy, yeah, to its sacred time. But in October, I think it's a good time because it's not too hot anymore. It's still pretty warm enough to go do baptisms and play in the water because I work a lot with water as well. So, yeah, beginning of October.
Yeah, and so both of you lead female tours, and if you want to get in touch with in these divine feminine experiences, I mean, what I always get with you too is purity. Like you have a very sincere intention with this, and there's a lot of facilitation that listens and comes in with a plan, but not so much an agenda to try to control the group. But you listen and you're like a flowing river. You follow what the people uh, are putting out there. But I haven't gone through I am so distracted tonight. So I don't even get this. But my name is Bart Sharp, and you are on Becoming Quantum Conscious at United Public Radio and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 and 105.3, broadcasting out of New Orleans, Louisiana, on Roku, cable television, X, YouTube, Facebook, UPRN website, And so you can catch us on all of those, or if you're in the beautiful city of New Orleans, you can catch us on the radio. So we're all over the place, and we just love it. And so why don't we shift the focus? Lonneke, do you have anything coming up? I forgot to ask. Do you have a tour or anything like that, or anything that
Um,
you would like to say?
yeah,
This.
well, there's a festival coming up, a Mary Magdalene festival, and that's
Ooh,
gonna be in the Netherlands. Yeah, it's super nice. I asked four of the women that have been on my podcast to join me, and we're gonna do a full day festival full of embodiment workshops and like a channeling, a healing. So it's really beautiful. And after that, I'm going to step away a little bit because I'm pregnant, and in December I am giving birth to a child. So yeah, no retreats this year anymore, but next year in June I will be back in the south of France for a new Mary Magdalene tour.
wonderful. And also you have a podcast. So if you Google Lonneke Zintel, you can find her podcast. Is it that easy?
Yeah, for sure. And if you look Lonneke Zintel, Mary Magdalene, you will find it, or the many faces of Mary Magdalene. But there are many podcasts in Dutch as well. So, but I am expanding, and there are also English
As I was on the
podcasts.
show, and I also saw that
Exactly,
you had Alethea Sophia coming
exactly.
up, who's, well, she's so elegant. I just love
Mm.
visiting with Alethea. Yeah. Anything else, Natalia, that you have on the
Well,
agenda, or how do
I
they
just wanted
Google
to
you?
add, like, for those who are watching, if they want to go and see the episode where you two speak, I listened to it. It was so, so good. So I just want to, send everyone there because it's genuinely a very beautiful, very powerful podcast episode.
Cool. All
Thank
right.
you.
So everybody, go check them out. So let's change the focus a little bit, because this show is called Mary Magdalene for Millennials. Uh, what inspires you about Mary Magdalene, and you know, uh, maybe, we've heard your opening story, but tell us something a little bit deeper about how she works with you. What are her values that you say, this means something to me? What is it about that lady?
For me, this is like speaking your truth, like, yeah, to not be nice, but to be truthful and to follow your own truth, and to listen to your heart. So, and this listening to your heart is not only sweet, and this is, I feel that she's really guiding me in this as well, to feel that the truth is honoring yourself and the wisdom that is flowing through you. For me, this is the most important, and of course also the balance between the masculine and the feminine, and to be so much into this receiving and opening your heart for your own pure soul flame, because I feel that you can also look at her and look at what she did and how she did it, but I feel that she's also way more inviting us to feel our own truth and to work from that space. So if you focus too much on how she did it, I feel you're losing her message, because her message is way more to explore your own inner truth and speak from that place. And if we all do that, we experience the oneness that we are, and together we co-create. So I feel that if we all do that, we are part of this oneness, and everything will feel also more connected because we are one organism.
Hmm, I love it.
Yeah, I really, really resonate a lot with that as well. And it's such a beautiful way you described it. Yeah, so powerful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Uh,
For for me,
That left me. Yes, go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead,
I'm
Bart.
still a little speechless.
Go ahead. I don't know if you wanted to add something
No,
to it.
no,
Go
you
ahead. That
go
was such a
ahead.
beautiful description. I think it's, if I can add on top of this, this is already such a beautiful way of, working with her energy and her frequency and what she embodies, because I really do resonate a lot with you on that. Like, she invites you to speak your truth and stand on your truth as well. And to me, I think part of reclaiming her story is also part of reclaiming the spiritual sovereignty of the feminine, because I think for millennia, like, the feminine was not honored in like the church and the more like spiritual communities. Like, there was no authority figures who were women, except Mother Mary in Christianity. And even her, she was such a restricted archetype of the feminine, which is like, it is an embodiment of the feminine, but I think the feminine is so much more than just what Mother Mary was allowed to be. And I think by going back and like trying to learn more about Mary Magdalene, whether it be more like from a historical point of view, whether it be from like more like, oh, I'm channeling her, or like I am in devotion to her, whatever side you're approaching, you're still reclaiming a part of the um, sovereignty of the feminine in the spiritual realm. And you're resurrecting back this aspect of the feminine as well. And I think in our collective psyche, this is about bringing back the feminine as a equal partner of the masculine in spirituality. And also, I think she also invites us to dive deeper into our sexuality as well. And I know there are so many channel books about Mary Magdalene as a sex priestess and Isis priestess. And, I leave it to everyone to believe that or not. I think everybody has their own opinion and they're allowed to have it. But regardless, whether you believe in that she was one or not, it still brings up the question of sexuality, which I think is such a big aspect of the feminine that again was repressed and again was not, like, women were not allowed to go and explore their sexuality, to be sexual beings. And so I think her archetype right now, like the way it is on earth, with everybody contributing their own things, be it like the more academic ladies or more like the channeling ladies, whoever it is, we are all collectively contributing to this archetype. And I think this archetypal force of Mary Magdalene is helping collectively raise the feminine on all aspects, and including our sexuality, including our spiritual sovereignty, and also reminding us to connect back to the path of love, to ask, like, what would love do? If I could walk this path of love, what would it look like? And I think ultimately that's her biggest invitation, is to walk this path of love.
Whoa, boy, both great answers. What do I say next after that? Um, I totally agree with you. And what came up for me is like, different generations do approach this Magdalene spirituality differently. The generations that are more in my generation and older than I am. I don't really consider myself in my generation, by the way. I'm somewhere else. I have no idea what that is. Um, so, they look at the history a lot, and they look at the stories. And from what you're telling me is like, and I see this in so many people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, because I do shamanistic work and I work with a lot of people. And when I'm in Austin, I teach classes at a vegan uh, wellness center. Let's put it that way. It's kind of a long story. But they're asking the same questions, like, how do I feel this spirituality? I want to have something that is in my heart and my body and my connecting with my soul, and I want to get my head out of the way. I want to get, the history's nice. It's nice to hear all of those stories, but it can be a distraction and you can get so easily lost in it. And yet, you two, um, I'll just say you're younger than me. I'm not going to say your age on the air. They told me earlier. We'll keep it a secret. Uh, and yeah, it's just amazing what you two are bringing, because you're totally of this generation that we're taking it deeper. And we take it around the world. We're building an archetype of what Mary Magdalene is. And she represents that, but it's much more than that. And from what I'm saying, that it could be somebody else. It doesn't necessarily have to be Mary Magdalene, though she is a really great person to emulate. And maybe that's what you're saying. At the deepest thing is I want to emulate that vibration into my own application.
Well
Yeah,
put.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I think, I love history. I read historical books as well on Mary Magdalene. I think it's important to also honor her as a historical figure. And
Yes.
I'm not by any means like an academic, and I don't pretend to be. And I think, like Lonneke said it so beautifully, like still, perpetual student. But I do think right now what we collectively co-created in the world is a bigger archetype of Mary Magdalene, and maybe her archetypal essence was meant to come into this specific timeline to awaken something collectively. And I'm very open to what is going to unfold through her on this planet.
Kind of exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Miss Lonneke.
I also loved what you said, Natalia, about what you added on me, because I felt like this fire of the suppression that is erasing, and that we are finally feeling this power to step out of it. And I can feel so much fire in this. And this is not only for women, this is also a step up for men as well. But the sisterhood that is created in the togetherness as Magdalene sisters is amazing as well. And I am also curious how it will evolve and develop when we are bringing in the men, to see. And of course, Bart, you're already doing it. So I'm curious how you experience this, but to really then also see that there is this Jeshua and Mary Magdalene, and that together we co-create. And if we both take this space, I I want to know what's coming up afterwards. What do you feel
Mm,
about that?
I would say that it, I'm always focused on developing a visceral sensation of light inside of me and filling my body up with light, and whatever is dense and, you know, like emotions such as anger, I resolve, and I just keep working in the light field. In other words, feeling it inside of me that I work with light all the time, and that's fun. That to me is what is one of her key messages, and to be detached from everything and love everything. Very much Buddhist philosophies. So we have about 7 minutes, so we're going to go to short answers. I'm just curious about a couple of books that y'all like that you would say this is a good book for everybody to read. What would that be?
So for me, I have Dutch books, so that pop up in my mind.
All right.
Uh, so one of them is Anine van der Meer, and she is a scientist, and she really did a lot of studies in religion. But then she opened herself up to also more Gnostic and more like the work of hypnosis, for instance. And I feel it's so nice that she is combining the science with another approach, and that is really a nice combination, I feel. So for me, this book helped me a lot to see that the two worlds can come together.
What's the author's name again?
Anine van der Meer.
Thank
It's
you.
a Yeah.
And I want to say thank you, Carrie Langdock, saying I'm about your age, Bart. And I agree that Bart consciousness and energy, ultimate message has been most important to me as well. Thank you, Carrie. How about you, Natalia?
For me, I actually really loved reading the Gospel of Mary and the Gospel of Philip. And I think, there's a lot of interpretations of them. Like, I know I might be getting the name wrong. I think Megan Watterson, which is a theologian, and I think she's based in New York. She did like a Mary Magdalene. She wrote Mary Magdalene Revealed book, which is a very beautiful book, by the way. I recommend to everyone who's interested in the topic. But she kind of she has her own interpretations of the gospel, and then there's also Jean-Yves Leroux, who's also a theologian, has a beautiful interpretation of the gospel. But what I love doing is just reading the gospel myself and receiving the messages, what does it mean to me? What do her words mean to me? And then reading the interpretation of other authors and comparing and seeing if we saw things in similar ways, some differences maybe we picked out. But this is the way I kind of uncovered a little bit of Mary Magdalene is through reading the Gospels. And it's the apocryphal Gospels that actually didn't get into the Bible, but I believe to be, the Gospel of Mary is the only Gospel that is written in a feminine name.
Okay.
And so I really recommend reading them if you want to explore more of her. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. Boy, there's so many for me. My first one is Anna, Grandmother Jesus by Claire Hartsaw. A Woman with the Alabaster Jar by Margaret Starberg. I think that was a well-researched book. Recently, I just interviewed The Woman in Red by Krishna Rose, a very good historical fiction. Excellent 3 books that I think really emulate a lot of what Magdalene consciousness. Of course, this isn't Magdalene, but Annie Williams' Guardians of the Dragon Path is a new one out that talks about the sacred sites here and gives a lot of evidence of the ancientness of this, and that Mary Magdalene is kind of the centerpiece. She's much bigger than just the woman. It's a state of consciousness that's represented there.
I really love that Williams book as well. It was a very, very beautiful one.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff. Natalia, you're fading out a little bit, particularly when you move your hand about. I don't know why, but just FYI. So I want y'all to think about if there's a message that you'd like to give everybody, like a 1-minute message about Magdalene or what you value in consciousness or something of that matter. Y'all think of that. Got about 1 minute each. We got about 3 minutes left on the show. And I'd like to tell everybody that you are with Natalia Dunne and Lonneke Zintel, and we've been talking about Mary Magdalene for Millennials and a very much younger woman's perspective. And we're talking about 40 and under type of perspectives, which, wow, it's been so rich and so insightful and profound. I knew y'all would do it because I just got to talk with you before, and you're so profound people. In addition, you are on Becoming Quantum Conscious, and my name is Bart Sharp, and you are on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 and 105.3, also on cable television, Roku, Facebook, YouTube, X, UPRN website. And ladies, what's your final message?
Well, I feel that if everyone who is listening to really listen to your heart and your inner calling, that if she's reaching out, that you can trust that she's doing it, and that there's not logic to follow, but really the magic that is inside of you, and to really connect to this inner wisdom, and that you can trust that, and that you can stop the busyness of your mind sometimes and just go outside, step your feet on the grass, your bare feet, and be quiet, to be able to hear her and to hear her message, but also your own inner voice that needs silence and that needs you to listen and receive. So please start receiving, because from that place there's so much magic for you ahead. And follow that guidance and that light that is already inside of you.
Wow. Natalia?
Okay, I couldn't unmute myself. Lonneke, I love so much what you just said, and I want to once again maybe bounce a little bit of that. I really do think that from my experience, every single woman I talked to who felt the call of Mary Magdalene always came to them in the most magical, miraculous, beautiful ways, more than our human could ever imagine. And I think this is the way that she comes to women, and this is the way she shows up to awaken us and to invite us to step into something bigger than ourselves, step into something bigger than what society presented to us as possible. And I think both of us, we kind of moved away from the traditional, like get a serious job, get the education, and we like discover like let's try something new, let's try something different. And I think through allowing ourselves to believe in miracles, to believe in a life that can be deeply sacred, that can be deeply magical, we also allow ourselves to build this intimacy with our soul and to trust that wherever it is guiding us, it is always in the highest good for us. And I think Mary Magdalene comes in the most beautiful ways to invite us on this path. And she also invites us to embody the most whole version of ourselves and the most whole version of our feminine, the feminine that is embodied, the feminine that is oracular, the feminine that is deeply owning their sexuality, not like in a manipulative way of like I'm gonna manipulate with my sexuality, but like I own it. It's a sacred energy that belongs to me, and it's about transmuting and releasing a lot of shame that we all as women carry. A lot of stories of not enoughness. It is about owning back our voice, reclaiming our voice, and allowing ourselves to speak our truth and speak our truth in all aspects of our lives, but also in the spiritual realms and get out of the spiritual closet where so many of us are still hiding. I think if she comes, follow her. She knows what she's doing, and if you just trust this, I really believe that like a magical path will unfold because this is my experience with every single woman I met who heard her call and followed her path.
Wow. Thank you both for being on the show tonight. It's just been so profound, insightful. Yes. We'll see everybody next week with Richard Stanley as we will be exploring light and dark. We'll see y'all next week. Bye bye with Becoming Quantum Conscious.